Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Sorry again for the little bit of technical issues as we kind of figure out how to get Zoom to show all the panelists and not just one person. For some reason, it was doing that. But welcome to the STARS College Network virtual panel or session today for this month. This is part of our college transition series. There'll be a couple throughout the year where we focus on that kind of college transition, especially this time of the year, when you all may be looking towards going to a school in the fall. So this is our current student panel day, and this one, our topic for today for our students to tackle is making the most out of your first year in college. So let me go through, there we go. So STARS is Small Town and Rural Students College Network, and we are a network of 32 institutions across the country, all the way from Maine to Texas, Georgia to California, and everywhere in between. And here's some of our sister schools that are part of the network. And you can see, and we've got a few of them represented here today for the panelists, where the students will be talking about their experiences. So some of you may be new to STARS, some of you may have already participated in a lot of what we have offered in the past, but we do a bunch of different things and we keep growing every year. So this is just some of our programming, and I'm going to just talk very briefly about it because I know what you really came to hear is the students and what they have to say. So we do a lot of traveling to your communities and visiting you where you're at and where you're living. That's visiting your high schools, doing programs there, maybe doing college fairs, all that kind of stuff. And so one of our goals in the network is to actually visit and travel to rural and small town communities. We offer free programs on our STARS school campuses. So this could be pre-college programs, this could be visit days, a wide variety of different opportunities that many of our campuses offer for rural and small town students to come. And because we are a program that's sponsored by a donor, these programs are also free. So a lot of times there's no financial commitment to participate in these programs. Great way to get college experience. And today is one of the examples of the virtual college access and affordability programming that we do. We do 2 sessions a month throughout the year on various different topics, everything from applications to financial aid to careers to student panels like this tonight. So these are just many. And at the end of the presentation and the session, I have a little slide that just kind of gives a little bit more information of some of our upcoming events that you might want to take advantage of. And then we also offer some internship opportunities. So again, this is very based on the different STARS schools and what they offer. So if you're interested, please check out our STARS website, starscollegenetwork.org, or visit the pages of the schools that you're interested in attending or thinking more about, because every school offers very different opportunities to ways to get involved or also get that college experience. So the important part is the students. And so I'm going to turn over to Hannah to talk on and get the panel introduced.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Hannah Pedretti. I am actually a student at UW-Madison, but today I'm just serving as your moderator. So I am a senior and I'm from Westby, Wisconsin. I'll take a second and have the panelists introduce themselves. So first on the list, we have Dallas.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dallas. I am a sophomore currently at the University of Maryland College Park. I am a sophomore international relations major with a minor in global terrorism studies, and I am from a small town of Ridgely, Maryland, over on the Eastern Shore.
Great, thank you, Dallas. Next we have Brighton.
Hi, everyone. My name is Britton Chrisweiser. I'm originally from a small town in Ohio called Waverly, but right now I'm a senior at Ohio State. My major is medical anthropology, and I have a minor in law and public policy.
Thanks, Britton. Nice. We have Sam.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. I'm Sam. I'm a senior at the University of Denver, and I'm originally from the town of Levita, Colorado.
And finally, AJ.
Hi, I'm a freshman at UW-Madison. I'm from northeastern Wisconsin in a town called Pound, and my majors are neurobiology and psychology.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ. So those are your panelists that you'll be hearing from tonight. They'll be answering a lot of your questions as we move forward. I can pass it back off to Jennifer.
Great. So we are going to get started with questions that we've already, the panelists are already familiar with. Hannah has those, and so she's going to be throwing questions at the panelists. Anybody can answer any question that you feel comfortable with. They're already familiar with it. And then after the panelists would take about 45 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to you all. So again, just a reminder, you can start putting questions in the chat. We won't get to those until after the panelists get through the questions that we've already predetermined. But feel free to start putting in the Q&A in the chat, any questions you have. But otherwise, I'm going to turn it back to Hannah to get started with our predetermined questions.
Sweet. Okay, so going along with the theme of making the most out of your first year in college, like Jennifer said, we have some questions already ready to go. Panelists, if you just want to unmute and hop in whenever you have an answer. First off, question one, what was it like coming from a rural or small town community to your campus?
Um, for me, it was really hard at first because there's a lot of big class sizes, at least at UW-Madison, especially for like the general like chemistry classes. Those usually have around 300 students. So it was a bit overwhelming, but what helped me the most was trying to find like tutoring groups so I didn't feel like I was super overwhelmed in the big class sizes.
I can say it felt very overwhelming at first. Specifically with UMD, it's a very big, busy, and way more diverse campus than most small towns. So, walking across campus between classes can feel like you're being dropped into a city almost. So, at the same time, it's exciting though. You're exposed to new ideas, people from totally different backgrounds, and way more opportunities than you probably have back home. So that's kind of my experience with it.
Follow-up question, just going off of that, like what is some advice that you have for making a smooth transition from high school? And if there's any tips for making that transition? And then if you could note any advantages coming from a rural or small town.
Yeah, I'd say, and this kind of just goes off of one of the really big advantages we have coming from a small town, but it's creating a community. I think a lot of times it can be intimidating to go to a larger school. It's a lot of people you don't know. I know high schools can tend to be kind of cliquey, and the worry is that college can be like that too. And I think I found just connecting through like student organizations. I joined clubs early on. Even I always just tried to talk to everybody in my class my freshman year. And I realized pretty quickly that just creating communities, not even just one, but one in kind of everything you're interested in, really helps make that school feel smaller. But it also helps you feel a little bit more supported, right? If you're having a bad day or you need help on a homework assignment you missed, you'll have somebody who can reach out and help you out. So I think, yeah, definitely try to focus on bringing those small town qualities, which is it's that community aspect of it. I think that really helps in the college process.
Yeah, I would like to second that. I think that was one of the biggest things that helped me was like making the campus smaller in those kind of like nice ways. At least for me, like one of the first things that helped me, especially coming to Ohio State, which is such a big campus, is making a community out of my dorm floor. So one of the first things I did when I got the campus was make friends with the person living beside you, and then that branches off, and then you go to RA events, and yeah, that was one of the first things that helped me.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like that's a big part of coming to college, and that kind of leads me into this next question. So, how did you make sure that you felt you belonged and you found a community on campus? Like, what were some of those things that you did specifically? Was it certain resources or programs or supports that you can think of that really just helped you feel like you belonged?
For me,
I could
sorry. Um, for me, I just tried joining a bunch of different clubs at first and then kind of going to like the first general meeting and seeing like where I felt most like I could see myself staying in this club in the future. So going to like the student org fairs really helped me because I guarantee like especially at such a big school, there's definitely a club out there for your interests. So that helped me at least finding people that had either like a similar like career interest or similar hobbies.
Yeah, I would kind of second off that, like, join, find clubs. Specifically, like at my school, we have our first look fair, so all of the clubs and organizations come on to like our main mall, and you get to kind of explore the different like opportunities and clubs and organizations. Go to the meetings. You don't have to stay within that club specifically the entire time. Just kind of like go and explore and see what you can do. I would also talk to people in like your major classes because most likely they're going to be in all of your other classes later on. I know a couple of people who had been in like two or three of my classes already. So I definitely got and made community through that, specifically just through my major alone.
Yeah, I would also like to add, student orgs are amazing and they're incredible. But something else that helped me personally was I played soccer in high school, and so joining an intramural team for that was something that immediately got me on campus and immediately got me active and immediately talking to people. And today I'm still friends with the people that I was on that team with.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you for sharing. We'll move into the next question. If there is nothing else to add for that one, what were some of the biggest surprises or challenges you faced during your first year? So you just got on campus and maybe a couple things surprised you, a couple things you weren't ready for, and you're like, oh, didn't realize that was happening or gonna be my responsibility. Anything like that.
For me, I didn't realize how much like in bigger cities, like the busing system is so really helpful. So, and I did never had to like use public transport before, so that was definitely a learning curve. So when I got to campus, they have at least at UW-Madison, they have a free student bus, and I just like went on the loop like two times and just to figure out kind of where the stops are and get familiar with, how to like get on and off and figure out where you need to go. And then another thing was I didn't really know how to study. It's a lot different studying in high school compared to college. Um, I struggled a lot with chemistry at least, so learning how to actually like remember concepts and actually apply them to your exams is like something I'm still figuring out too. But
I definitely want to add on to like the lack of structure compared to high school. I feel like with college, you realize that no one is checking on you if you're going to class or doing the work at all. You kind of really have to like rely on yourself to do that and really create a structured routine by yourself, which is definitely, it can be difficult at times, especially if you're in a much different environment than you're usually in, specifically from going from a small town to a school that is basically near a city. Like I'm basically 20 minutes away from DC. So it's definitely it's definitely hard to I guess kind of cope with that usually in the beginning, but as long as you build structure and a good routine, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I would say kind of the same thing with that structure and routine. Um, it is always, I mean, go throughout high school, I always had somebody checking in with me. And I think one thing I've noticed in college and as I about wrap up with my college now is that quarter to quarter and week to week and like year to year look drastically different. Um, so you may get into the routine one quarter and you may have to find a completely new routine your next quarter. You may be taking, 18 credit hours, which is like it depends on the school, 4 to 5 classes, and then the next quarter you take two. So it's finding, how to manage that time too. I think everybody at some point in their college experience notices that they have this gap of time that maybe was filled by other things in high school, and it's how can you best use that time and not go so gung ho in it that you find yourself burnt out through it. So it's learning yourself. It's a big process of kind of getting punched in the face a little bit for the first time and learning how you can handle that and how you want to move forward with it. So
Yeah, we can keep that ball rolling. Sam and Dallas, you kind of touched on this already, but another question I have is just how did you handle the academic differences between high school and college? So again, just like coming from that structure and that learning environment in high school and then doing it in college. Can you talk about some of those challenges or things you have to learn?
For me, I did they have a lot of free like tutoring groups on campus, at least at UW-Madison. Like they have one for math, chemistry, writing. So I tried to enroll in the chemistry one before the semester started, and that helped me like study consistently and then do like practice exams. And they do a lot of stuff for students, and it's completely free. You just have to commit to showing up two times a week. And I'm sure it's different at every university, but I think I would assume most campuses have free tutoring resources that really help students. And at least at Madison, the earlier you sign up to be in the courses, it's normally easier to get in because at Madison for the chemistry one, they don't accept students. Um, they only accept students after if you're doing really poorly in the class at a certain point in the semester. So I think it's better just to take the initiative and do it before you get too far behind.
One thing that helped me adjust a lot was utilizing office hours that the professor gives out. I think that's one thing that's not utilized enough, and it should be utilized more. Because office hours are a great way to make one a connection with the faculty member, and two, you know they can help you with questions you may having about the course, and it helps to just adapt to the different environment that you're in.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. It's also important to make those relationships with your professors if you ever are going to be in need of a letter of recommendation or a reference. So, keeping those things in mind is always really good. We can move on to the next question. So, how did you manage your finances, including budgeting and handling costs of living as a college student?
I made a budget chart for me. I track my spending weekly. I used to start doing it through like my notes app and stuff. So I use like my campus resources. So I would spend my dining dollars very wisely. Use my meal plan a lot. So I would go to the dining hall a lot instead of like eating out. So I would try to limit eating out a lot. Because don't assume you need to go out all the time to have a social life. Like, trust me, you save your money. I promise you, you'll be fine. Um, I think do anything fancy, just consistency really helps overall.
I think my first year of college, I wouldn't say I probably did a great job of it, and it was one of those things where even like my dining hall meal, like your meal plan, I think I found myself like 80% of the way through my second semester in college, and I had used all but like 5 meals for the rest of the quarter. And that was a little wake up call. One really unique thing about college, right? We were talking about a little bit earlier, is you're not going to have somebody tracking that for you. So it definitely could for a lot of you guys be something where there's going to be some new part of adulting that you're not comfortable with yet, and it's just going to be that point where you kind of want to grow from those earlier mistakes you make. And for me, yeah, it was like I don't think my first quarter I did a good job of it at all. But I found a lot more structure through that, and that's helped me be more confident at college. But then kind of understand what my means are as I now have a different place to live as I'm buying groceries and working jobs as well. The other second half of the finance thing is I have found almost as much growth in the jobs I've had outside of university. So I do think it's important if you do have that extra time, you start finding it to consider those past two, because not only do they help with finances, but they also kind of carry over and you see what you're learning in college actually applied.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Oh, sorry. AJ, do you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, you can still apply for scholarships even when you're in college after you accept your admissions or and everything. Uh, I didn't do a great job with that this year, but they do it for all 4 years. Like you can keep applying, and that definitely helps cut back the cost. And also what's helped me so far and my throughout my first year of college is working over breaks. Over winter break, I pretty much just worked in my hometown, and then that's what I plan on doing this summer. So once the semester starts, I can kind of take it a little bit more easy and still have enough money to pay for rent, groceries, and everything.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So we'll move into the next question. In what ways has your rural background shaped how you experience your college or university? So is there anything that really just shaped your character, your beliefs, your experiences from that rural background that just have applied to your university or college?
For me, I didn't realize like how unique of an experience it was to grow up in a rural and go to have a rural background. Um, it's normally like throughout my friends in college, it's normally like if I'm getting introduced to a new group of people, um, a lot of my friends will tell people like that I grew up on a farm, which is kind of funny because like my friends are just think of like my growing up was it's kind of like a joke for us, but also like I know that I can tell people about stuff and they're not gonna like think I was crazy for saying like I drove tractors all the time at home. And then another thing too is like for me, at least in Northeast Wisconsin, there's like a really big lack of broadband. So I didn't have the internet until I was like 16. So that was a big learning curve too, because a lot of my friends, like, I mean, like my friends were pretty surprised by the lack of like internet culture that I lacked. So that was a big thing too. And then a lot of I have a mentor through my scholarship program, and that was actually a big talking point about how she's worked with rural students, and she finds that when rural students like kind of embrace their background, that she tends to get like those tend to be her better workers because she at least in Wisconsin, there's like a strong like work ethic with rural students because there's a lot of kids working on farms or like family businesses. So I think just being able to highlight your rural experience can really help you. And that helped me like getting my scholarship too, which also got me involved in a community on campus.
Yeah, I mean, I think this webinar we have right now in the STARS network, these are all examples of kind of some of those highlights of being a rural student. There's college organizations for almost everything you're passionate about, but I have one at the University of Denver for rural students. Um, Through that, you get community. There's dedicated support. But I think the other thing is like high school, your academic prowess and what it took for you to get to that next level to go to university can look a lot or drastically different between each student as opposed to like what it would look like at an urban school. So I think it's really capitalizing on what it took for you to take these next steps, right? A lot of, I know my school didn't offer AP classes. We didn't have SAT prep. We didn't have college courses. Um, and we're still, I mean, I found my way into university, and I think for a lot of us, it's because we have unique assets. Maybe it's working within your community. Maybe you worked a couple jobs well in high school. Maybe you were really connected with an organization in your community. All of these little things, I think rural students can create an incredible narrative because it's not purely score and statistic based. Um, I, there's a lot of I would say extracurricular or non-scholastic accomplishments that a lot of us have had in high school, and I think that's something you should be really proud of that you've made it here. But it's also something that you can absolutely leverage in the college application process and the scholarship process, and just know you have some grit to you, right? When you have a lot of assignments bearing down or you get stressed out, know that you've kind of been in that situation before, and you are where you are today because you're special students. So.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you for saying that, Sam. We can look at a few questions in our Q&A chat we have from Charisse. So it looks like Charisse is asking what type of housing, campus safety, and dining rooms look like. And it says that Jennifer's going to answer this question live.
Oh, sorry. I just put it so that we're gonna throw that to the students. Yeah, I
Okay,
left
perfect.
it so that you could still read it, but you all should answer for your campuses. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So then that's for the panelists. So one more time, what type of housing and campus safety and do the dining rooms look like?
You could
I
go.
go to
You can
a,
go for it.
oh yeah, sorry. I go to a, not an extremely large university. I think our student population is about 10,000 students. I think something was really unique my freshman year is I'm from a really small town, like total population is like 400 people. My class size is smaller than I ever want to admit. And when I went to college, my dorm was larger than the entire town I lived in my whole life. And that's unique. That's a shock when you walk outside and right there's a bunch of people. I think one unique thing, a lot of colleges, I know mine has a 2-year requirement to live on campus. That's not always practical, and they waive that. But for me, to this day, probably 4 of my like 6 best friends that I connect with were on my floor my first year of my freshman year. And I think there's something to be said of that about that, right? Finding those little communities. I think your dorm is a fantastic place to do that. I know your RA will host events, but knock on each other's doors. I know it sounds weird, but it is. Everybody wants to get comfortable and connect with people, and I found that was a great way to do so. So embrace the size. You're gonna definitely in that amount of people find somebody you'll really connect with, and I know that paid dividends for me.
I think with UMD's housing specifically, when I first came to UMD, I was a part of the College Park Scholars programs, which was an LLP or a live-in learning program. So these programs, along with honors, you would live in certain sections on campus. So you would live with other people and scholars. Most notably, you would live with other people within your certain program. So I was a part of the global public health program. So I lived on a floor with other people a part of global public health. Specifically, my roommate, who's basically my best friend now. So that's how I met him through that. And then like dining halls, we have like three dining halls. The biggest one is Yahid Tamitsi Dining Hall, and then South Campus, and then 251 North. So the Y is like everybody's like most popular one that everybody goes to, and then South, where everybody lives on South Campus, they'll go to that one. They're usually pretty nice. They have a lot of different like cuisine there, so different like American, Italian, Indian, like a bunch of different cuisines and other things there. So.
Going off of that, I think that's one of the best things at Ohio State is their range and selection of dining halls. The student body at Ohio State is relatively large. I believe it's like 45,000. And for that, they compensate with, I think in total, there's like 15 different eateries around campus. And those could be dining halls where you can use your swipes or anything like that, or there's like markets where you can use your dining dollar balance or anything like that. But the diversity of food is so different and so vast, and it was one of my favorite things being a freshman and coming in and just being able to experience all this food that I've never seen before in my small rural town in Southern Ohio.
At UW Madison, I want to say there's 10 dining halls or something like that, but there's quite a few. I mean, Madison has a pretty big student population. I think it's around the same for Ohio State. I know the freshman population is like almost 9,000. So it's a pretty big campus. And for me, the what was important for the dorm was like I wanted to be somewhere where I could meet a lot of people, kind of be close to classes. So, and at Madison, there's a Southeast and a Lakeshore campus, and Lakeshore is closer to nature, and it is really nice, but I want to be a little bit closer to my classes. So I ended up staying in the Southeast one. And when I moved in, like my roommate and I just had a door stopper, and we would just keep our door open and just hang out. And that's how we met a lot of people. But then for the safety thing, for me, at UW-Madison, they have a program called Safe Walk, which they'll walk students to like anywhere on campus, and even like about a mile out of campus, and they'll just walk you wherever you need to go. And that I know a lot of people say is really helpful. For me, with what I do with my friends, is we all have a Life 360 group, and just to make sure that everyone gets back to their dorm safe. And then we always try to make sure somebody has someone to walk with whenever you go anywhere. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, those are all great things. Thank you. We have another question in the Q&A chat that we can answer live. Um, Feel free to keep putting questions in that Q&A. I'll try and monitor that and we can answer them live for you. So this one's from Natasha, and she says, can you give a basic general profile development strategy that I can start with if I am planning to go to an Ivy League? They're in grade 9 and they're just kind of wondering what to do and when, slash like what will benefit her, maybe like research, job internship, what kind of passion projects. So I think just kind of what they're wondering is a basic walkthrough of the application process. What is good to have on there? What would you recommend? And then when that process starts.
Natasha, I think the biggest lesson I learned in high school and in college that has helped me, whether it's through getting scholarships or going to the university I went to, it is you don't stick to that script. It's find early what you're passionate about. I see you asked what kind of passionate project. I do think it's important, right, to try to find an internship. I know in rural communities, there's a lot of like community aspect, and there's a lot of people that want to teach you what you're willing to learn. But it requires you to take the step and you to start the process. And if it's something you're not passionate about, I would argue that when the time comes for you to actually use this in your application, or where you're looking through, or when you're looking for jobs in college, internships in college, all of that stuff, if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to have not only the results to show, but the story to tell about it. So I think something that really will benefit you early on in high school is starting to find what your passions are. Find your core values, find your beliefs, find kind of what you want to fight for, or what you're interested in. And from there, yes, do some research on it, join a community organization around it. Take advantage of what your rural area has to offer and what your school has to offer, but I don't want you to just do that on anything. I want you to do it on something you're passionate about it. That's where you're actually going to see those tangible results. And when the time comes, you're going to have to write an essay on this, and you may have to have an interview for a scholarship. Um, and you're gonna have two different possibilities. One, you're gonna kind of get the default about what you did, or two, you're gonna tell the story about what you love. And I think that second story is the one that's gonna set you apart and get you ready for either Ivy League applications or scholarships. So I'd say focus less on what maybe the development strategy is, and more on what am I passionate about, and what can I do to benefit that, right? They want to see those kind of results.
Another thing I would say is like do quality over quantity. I didn't, I don't personally think I had a lot of like experiences. I mostly talked about like two things that I did in high school and my rural background. And that helped me a lot because I think I had talked about how much I cared about the um activities that I did, like these two activities, which I know some people talk about doing like being president of like a ton of different clubs in high school, but um I think that's what helped me is because I talked about how I was really passionate about these. I coach soccer, and then I also have my CNA license, and I talked about how that really helped me um know I wanted to go on the pre-med path because I had experience with in the healthcare field. So I think if you can really just explain like why these experiences matter to you, then that's going to look so much better than listing out like 10 different things and maybe not even having a ton of involvement with them. But when you care about something, that's just going to make it a lot easier.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Next up, we have a question from Hannah, and she is wondering, is there one thing that you would say about your dorm? Like, if there was one thing that you would recommend bringing to your dorm room, what would you bring?
For me, I think it depends on what dorm I would have lived in. Some dorms, at least at UW-Madison, don't have AC. So like bringing a fan is pretty helpful. Bring cough medicine. I got sick like the first week I moved to campus. I think I got the flu. I don't really know, but definitely bring some sort of like cold medicine. Like you will get sick at least once while you're living in the dorms. And it's not fun. And then and I don't think you don't bring too much because at least for me, like a lot of my friends are worried about moving out now because the semester is almost over. So like you don't need to bring everything that's in your room, especially if you're going to be there for 2 semesters. So I would try to think about like what you actually need versus like if it's a shirt you've only worn like once or twice, well, you're not going to wear it at school. So
Yeah, going off that, I remember my freshman year, I brought way too much to the point where I think throughout like finals week, not only did I have to study for finals, but I also had to like pack stuff up and bring stuff home throughout the week because I couldn't do it all through one trip because I brought way too much clothes. Don't bring too many clothes because it's to the point I only wore, I think, probably like 25% of my closet um to what I brought specifically. So don't bring too much. Always just bring the essentials. I think, yeah, medication, a lot of medication because you are most likely going to get sick because of just exposure to like a larger environment specifically. You're gonna like other essentials like laundry because you're gonna be doing your own laundry. Like basically just essentials to basically live in a dorm.
Cleaning supplies. You'll probably be sharing your room with one other person, and you might even have suite mates. It is such a quality of life improvement to come home to a clean dorm and to a clean room. And holding your roommates to that standard too, right? This is gonna be one of those things where it's one consistent you can have is keeping that room clean, and your shared space is clean. So definitely cleaning supplies. The other thing with that, I know this is like the biggest cliche, but bring those shower shoes for a reason. I know I had a community bathroom my freshman year, so I shared it with like our entire floor. Um, Talk about like the sickies and stuff. It's just take care of your stuff, keep your stuff clean, and then shower shoes are fantastic for the shower, so you're not stepping on those tiles.
Yes, those are all very valuable things to have with you. I would also recommend a shower caddy. The plastic ones or the mesh ones, you'll want something that just is like your bathroom bag ready to go. Awesome. Okay, so this was a question earlier that we had in the Q&A, but I just thought we could touch on it again. How do you engage with and what is your student union on campus?
So our student union is called Stamp, so we call it Stamp. So it's basically a union. We have a bunch of different, we have a huge food court in there. So we have like a Subway, a Chick-fil-A, and a whole bunch of different restaurants. Like there's like a coffee shop in there as well. But it's also a really good study spot. Like we have like the student center that's in there too, where a lot of people go in there and study. There's a lot of different events that happen there too through like our event programs that are there. We had I think recently we had like TerpCon, which was like a big like convention that we had, which were like there was a bunch of different activities that happened. There was also like a drag show that had happened there too, which was really fun. We also have like a movie theater in there, so they'll show movies and stuff there every once in a while, and they'll do performances there as well. So it's basically just a big it's just a huge building to where like a lot of students can come together and really connect through a bunch of different events and stuff. And it's also a pretty good study spot as well.
At UW-Madison, we have two student unions. We have Memorial Union and then Union South. I mostly go to Memorial Union. It's right by Lake Mendota, which it's so nice. Like my friends and I will just go there and just sit by the lake. And it's a lot of fun, especially with the weather getting nicer out. We can do homework or sometimes we'll just hang out. They do a lot of music events on they call it the terrace. It's just by the water. And I really liked it because growing up in a small town, there really wasn't a lot of chances to see live music. So now, and it's free, so you just have to walk there and then you get to see concerts from artists I've never heard of before, at least. But and then it's like a big community thing too, because a lot of you almost always at least at Madison, I always see people like as a second, like it's above 60 degrees out. There's a ton of people studying outside. Um, you have people like playing games and like because it's still in like the city of Madison, like you see families going around and it's just a really big community thing. And then also they have restaurants there too, like they have ice cream. Uh, they have more of like a bar tavern style place. Um, but it's really cool because like I feel like there's just everything in this one building. Like there's places to study, you can hang out with friends, you can eat. So it's really nice. And it's a good way to get out of your dorm and not study all the time in your dorm.
For Ohio State's union, I would say it's pretty similar to that. It's like the epicenter of campus. And in there, it's like any single student resource that you can need, like your Buck ID, or I know some of my advisors are placed in there. And you can even, like, if you're part of a student org, or if you're, an RA, or just a part of like a community, you can requisition materials from there. So if you ever needed like funding or anything like that. But it's also where like the most famous Ohio State restaurants are, I guess, like Hang On Sloopy's or Woody's Tavern. And like was mentioned before, it's a it's a great place to get together with your community and like play games or like sit for org meetings.
Sweet. Okay. Thank you all for sharing. Next question. This is just one that I have. How do you manage your time in college? Is there a certain, like, do you have a planner? Do you use some app? Like, what do you guys do to manage your time?
For me, I put everything on my calendar. I use Google Calendar, and then um, I think most universities use Canvas for assignments. So and I can just link the assignment list to my calendar so like I can have all my assignments, like my personal stuff and my classes all in one place. And that really helps me. And then for me, having a lab, I try to like plan my week around that. I know like because I have my lab on Tuesdays, I know I'm going to be pretty busy like Monday getting ready for lab and Tuesday going to lab and doing the lab report. And then like Wednesday and the rest of the week is a little bit more like it's not as crazy, I guess to say. And then I normally try to have like Saturday be like a reset day and then Sunday I try to like do a bunch of work. So it kind of like depends on the person and I'm definitely more of a night owl. I do homework like pretty late at night and then I just go to I normally go to my classes and then I get done pretty early and then do work and hang out with friends.
Yeah, I use basically a weekly calendar like on my phone just and we also use Canvas as well so you can also like link your assignments to like your like calendar on your phone so I keep track of that. I also like to block out like certain hours within the day as like study time. So I always kind of like think of it as like a class almost, but except it's just study time to where like I get some assignments done, or if I need to study for an exam or a midterm coming up, that's what I usually like to do. Um, I always like to keep like 1 to 2 like I guess flex nights for like social life or hanging out with friends. Or just resting up so you don't get burnt out as much because for me, most stress in college comes from things piling up, but not just from a single assignment. So making sure to find that balance between study time and getting assignments done, but also having a social life is a really, really good thing. And it's really key. It's definitely hard to adjust at first when coming into college, but you will find it.
Yeah, I do. I work a full-time job and then I go to university. And I think a big thing with my like scheduling is I try to make sure I can schedule out like way in advance. So one thing with like my job is I know it's going to conflict at least twice a quarter or a semester, a quarter for me with like midterms finals. So it's getting those scheduled right away, getting all the assignments scheduled out right away. And once I get to that point, what I really do is I find that this allows me to actually just like schedule my free time, not so much schedule my busy time. I try to always have that written down, but I think it is so, so, so important to find a flexible enough schedule that you're able to do the things you enjoy. And if you have a hobby, for me, I'm an avid golfer. I love to golf. I schedule in time to golf every week so that I make sure I actually go and do that because if there's a week I'm not up on top of it with my schedule, I will just not get to those things I enjoy. And you get burnt out really quickly when that happens. So I think having like a holistic schedule, not just where do I put my assignments and how do I make sure they get done on time, because your entire life in college, believe it or not, is not going to be turning in assignments. That's just part of it. But it's managing all those other aspects that I think are really important. And then I use an app called Structured. It's a calendar app. It has some AI elements that I've enjoyed in it, but anything you can use that allows you to plot it out and kind of know what you have going on is important. I have a friend that is paper. I'm probably way too lazy and have way too bad handwriting to do that, and I would have loved to, but anything that works for you guys.
Yeah, that's a great point. Making sure you still allow time to do things you enjoy, whether that's golf or whether that's walking or reading, making sure that you still allow time for that is how you stay sane. Okay, so we have another question here, probably our last question from the Q&A from Evan. They are wondering, would you say college is harder than high school? If so, by how much? What advice would you give to ease the transition?
For me, I would say it's at least in my experience, it was definitely harder. Um, and some ways it was easier, in some ways it was worse. I really liked having a lot more flexibility. Um, I got to meet a lot more people like from various backgrounds instead of like I went to I went to the same school with the same people since I was in fourth grade, so it's really nice meeting a ton of different people and you get to learn so much more, I think. Um, but then for me right now as a freshman, they call them like the weed out courses. So we get like a lot of busy work, I would say, where they are purposely hard classes because they're trying to see. because they don't want like people to keep taking these classes if they're not going to be able to do well in them. Um, so I think setting up a routine has helped me a lot, at least this semester too, compared to my first semester. My schedule was like my classes were all over the place. I started at a completely different time every day. And it was really hard because I wouldn't like just, I didn't wake up at the same time every day because I had like some really early classes and really late classes. So if you can, I definitely would try to make your schedule really consistent. Like this semester, I start class at pretty much the same time every day, and that's helped me a lot because I I go to bed at the same time or relatively close to the same time every night. I get up at the same time every day, and that's just really made the transition easier. And then giving yourself grace, like it's not going to be easy. Like you're gonna like make mistakes, but as long as you're like adjusting to them and learning from them, that's definitely going to help. And it's okay. Like no one, I feel like it's a lot less pressure to be like the perfect student because kind of everyone's doing their own thing. I feel like that's one thing that's easier is that I don't feel like I have to compare myself with anybody anymore. Mostly because like my friend group, I'm the only one that has like a neurobio major. So that helps me a lot because I'm like, why would I compare myself to my friends when we're not even taking the same classes? So I think that would be the big thing is not comparing yourself.
Yeah, definitely running off the like resources. I definitely think it's much easier in high school in the way that resources are offered. I think, we have, talk to your academic advisor. They are great. They are there to help you with not only schedule building to see like how on track you are with your 4-year plan throughout college. Go to office hours with your professors and your TAs specifically. Those are such a huge help. Um, and going to tutoring, there's different tutoring, like specifically for UMD, we have specifically like math tutoring and chemistry tutoring as well. And UMD as well, if you're in a living learning program, they also have like specific advisors and tutors to help you with that. So you even get more resources and help specifically if you're a part of a living learning program there. So I would definitely say overall college is harder, I guess, for me, like class wise. I think it's definitely more rigorous. But it's fun that way because you're learning something that you want to do specifically for your future. So I definitely think, yeah, it's going to be hard, but I think it's fun in a way because it's something that you want to do and you want to learn about. And I kind of like that challenge. So challenge doesn't necessarily need to be terrible at all. It gives you more motivation overall to work harder in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think college is a fantastic sandbox to try and to fail. I think just a pretty good example of that is I entered college as a English and political science major 4 years ago, and I'm leaving as a math and computer science major. It couldn't be like any more polar opposite. I think I told myself leaving high school I was never going to touch a math question again, because I was I was scared of the rigor it would take. I didn't feel real comfortable with math coming out of high school. I didn't take a lot of math classes in high school, and I got to university and I did English for a while, and I was like, okay, I want to try something new. And I took a math class, and it was super hard. It was like calc. I didn't do fantastic in it, but I passed it, and I loved that challenge so much that I took another one. And then I took a coding class, and that ended up being my entire major. So I would encourage you to go seek to try those things that you're not comfortable in and to fail, even if it's not necessarily easier than high school to do so, because you may find those passions are those things you were scared to do. And for me, it was. I never thought I would graduate with the degree I am graduating with, and it's not been the easiest route on the way there, but that's part of what you build that resilience. And I mentioned earlier that I think rural students have a fantastic grit and adaptability, and I think that's just something you should always highlight throughout your time in college, and it'll get you where you want to go.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. That's great advice from all of you. Thank you so much. So, thank you everyone for asking your questions and putting them in the chat. I just have one last question for our panelists. If you guys could all just briefly touch on what is one thing you would say to your freshman self. So just maybe like a sentence or two, and then we'll wrap it up and hand it back over to Jennifer.
I would say for me, don't assume you need to have everything figured out immediately, especially with making friends, deciding on what your major is. I know a lot of people at UMD specifically, they're a part of our letters and sciences program, which is like an undecided like program. So they'll just get their gen eds done through that, and then they'll decide later on whether they want to specifically go into a major or even like the college experience in general. Because for me, the people who adjust best usually just stay consistent and they show up and let things develop naturally instead of forcing it. So let it come naturally to you. Don't force it onto yourself because you don't need to have everything figured out immediately. Just keep going. Just keep moving forward. You'll figure out a lot of things on the way. I definitely think college is a very humbling experience, but in a good way.
For me, I mean, I'm still a freshman, so it's like talking to myself from like a couple months ago. But um, I think I would say like I think I went into college thinking that I had like really high expectations. I was like going to be like best friends with my roommate, and that's just not the case for everybody. Like, and I just didn't have. I felt like I didn't really have anybody to talk to. I didn't like really find my friend group until later on in first semester. So I think I would have just told myself to just wait because I was like literally was like, I can't wait to go home. Like, I don't know anybody here. Feel like I'm only doing work and like not hanging out with anybody. And then I literally like 2 weeks after I was like thinking about like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I couldn't find my friend group. I found like my closest group of friends. And I didn't like I felt like I didn't give it enough time before I started thinking about like I wasn't gonna have a good time at college. I think so. I just tell myself to be a lot more patient and everything will work out.
I think one thing I would say to my freshman self is you don't have to be perfect. And give yourself some grace for what you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. I hope all of your questions in the question and answer feature were answered. Jennifer, I'll have you wrap it up for us.
Yes, thank you so much. A huge shout out to Hannah, our awesome moderator, and our wonderful panelists. I mean, I love these kind of webinars because I think you can hear from us admissions folks all day long, but this is where the true advice, information, like the real experience, and we've got everybody from a freshman to senior in there. So like you're getting it all in different sized campuses and different locations across the country. So thank you so much. I was taking notes, great information. So I hope everyone on the call, the webinar has also gotten a lot of valuable information out of this too. Just in case you can't see the slides, I'll just read it. Just a few final reminders. So thank you everyone who attended. This is great. It's recorded, so it should be on our YouTube channel in case that you want to share it with friends or if you want to revisit it for all the information that was shared. If you're interested in any of the universities that are present on the panel by our students, in a couple weeks on Tuesday, May 5th at 7 p.m. Central Time, we're going to have our STARS virtual college fair. So this is a great way. I know many of the colleges and universities who attend for STARS have student reps who also attend on the virtual college fair. So if you want to talk to any, I don't know if any of the students are going to be on, but any other colleges that are part of STARS, any of these specific colleges that are represented, please join us for that. Again, it's a virtual college fair. It runs for about an hour and a half, starting at 7 p.m. Central Time, and that's on Tuesday, May 5th. And if you want more college going information, just make sure you check out our website at starscollegenetwork.org, which is a great way to see our upcoming webinars and virtual sessions that we have. Also, some of the programs like in-person visits and other things that the STARS colleges and universities are doing. But otherwise, with that, I want to thank our panelists and moderator again, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us.